Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's time to get your Christmas shopping done. That's right, it's the 2nd of December already. My name's Sean. I'm your host here on the Edge of Liberty, right here on the SHR Media Network, simulcast with our good friends over at KLRN Radio. Make sure you check them out. Hope you had a good Thanksgiving, a good holiday weekend. Hopefully you got plenty of food, alcohol, and rest. And if you're not drinking food. Certainly had a blast this past Thanksgiving. I spent it with some friends next door, and good times. Good times. So much to talk about today, man. Whew. There was so many. It's the problem with taking a couple days off, right? Every time you get back, when you do this job, you take a couple extra days off. All of a sudden, that list of things you wanted to talk about goes through the roof. And this is one of those days. But I'm going to start. This one just kind of a weird story just broke, I don't know, the last hour or so, it looks like. A Democratic House staffer for Representative Joe Morelli, his name is Michael Hopkins. He was arrested at the Capitol on Monday after security found ammunitions, 4 magazines, and 11 rounds in his bag. What's even more weird, he's being charged with possession of high-capacity magazines, so I'm assuming that's a D.C. law, even though it happened on federal property. And as much as he shouldn't probably be bringing ammunition and stuff into the Capitol, I also don't think he should be charged with a high-capacity law, because I don't think that should be a thing. It happened this morning when he was on his way in. They did a regular screen in his bag like everybody gets, and they found it. He said he forgot it was in there. It's so weird, though, because if he was up in New York with it, I don't think he was supposed to have high-capacity magazines up there either. It's very odd. Not the biggest deal in the world. I get it. The guy's a Democrat, but it doesn't change the fact that if he went shooting over this weekend and forgot that it was in his bag, yeah, he should be more responsible and mindful, but this is not like a changing the world sort of incident. It's just weird. It's so weird. I also laugh how much Democrats are anti-gun, and then all of a sudden you see them with high-capacity magazines and ammunition. So, they have guns in their life at some point. Try to decide where I'm going to start. Look, I'm going to get to the pardon. That's probably going to take up the show. I have so many clips. I have so many things I want to talk about the pardon. So I'm going to start off with the entire left going nuts over the nomination of Kash Patel. I talked about this last week, that it looked like he was going to be the choice, and he was. And now you have Dems screaming, absolutely losing their mind over it, which is hysterical to me, because their first thing is that he's going to somehow use lawfare in order, but I thought you couldn't do that, right? Isn't that what we were told? Like, there's no way you can use lawfare. There's no way like this can happen. That's why Trump's being charged. It's all on the up and up. It can't happen unless it's a real crime, yada, 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 yada. Now Kash Patel's get in there and is talking about exposing a lot of things. You have lawyers, which we reported on this, I don't know, right around the election, that no matter who Trump picked to go in, there were going to be some resignations over there at the FBI, DOJ, all of that. And you're seeing it more and more. There was one Dem losing their mind. If you give me a second, I got to pull it up. About who Trump should now pardon because of who's going into the FBI and the DOJ. And it blows my mind. It shows you how jaded, how dirty, I guess dirty is the better way to put it, how dirty they are over there on the left. Because if you've done nothing wrong, and I've said this before, if you just do your job, if you're one of those FBI agents who just did your job, you never let politics dictate your investigations. You just do your job. You have nothing to worry about. None whatsoever. No issues. No issues whatsoever. Right? But there obviously are issues. And one of the other great things, by the way, if you're not in the chat, go ahead and jump in the chat wherever you're listening to, YouTube. Doesn't matter. You jump in, I'll see it one way or the other. And good morning and afternoon to Jersey Joe is over in the YouTube chat. But yeah, it's crazy to me to think if you've been working on the up and up, you've been doing everything right. If you think Kash Patel coming in to be your boss is somehow going to get you in trouble, no. Let me translate what that really means. It means that if Kash Patel comes in and does what he says he's going to do, it's going to expose the bias that is in the FBI. And we know the bias is there. We've seen them investigate school board parents and go after preachers for praying and all this other stuff, right? Outside abortion clinics. It's there. We know it's there. The FBI has gone out of their way to destroy their own legacy, reputation, and trust with the American people. That is a foregone conclusion. They created themselves to be in this situation. They created an environment where politics dictated where investigations went or didn't go, as we saw in the case of Hunter Biden and some other people. It's gross over there. It is corrupt over there. Again, not every FBI agent is a bad person. I am not saying that. But the soul of the agency is gross. It is tainted. It is disgusting. And it goes against everything that they're supposed to be. Justice is supposed to be blind. We know that it is not. You have people asking for, with Kash Patel going in, oh, we need to have a pardon for Jack Smith, everyone who worked in the Jack Smith investigation, this person, that person. Why? Why? If there's something that they've done, and they're at the highest levels of government, if there's something that these people done worthy of investigation and crime, then don't you want that exposed? Wouldn't you want that exposed? I do. Because they sure as hell would do it if it was the other way around. As a matter of fact, they'd be bragging about it on TV. They would be bragging about it on all of these interviews. Well, we're going to go in there because we know X, Y, and Z did A, B, and C. That's what they love to do. Thank you, Cy in the chat. So now they're all pant wetting over there. And you have Democrats saying things like this. And this goes directly, I know this covers the pardon, but this really does go directly to who's going into, or Kash Patel being the one going into the FBI.
Grant of clemency. I hope that President Biden will also issue preemptive pardons to all of those people threatened by the injustice of what will become the Department of Justice in the Trump administration. That, of course, includes Jack Smith and all of his staff, many Department of Justice lawyers. It includes President Biden himself, although we don't know that anyone can legally pardon themselves. He will need a pardon because he is going to be harassed and charged for no crimes whatsoever. Donald Trump has promised that.
Anthony, to pick up
Okay,
on that,
so you're asking
do you
for a preemptive pardon for what? What is going on over at the Department of Justice that justifies that? Somebody tell me. And again, if it's going on and it's against the law, it should not be. See, the problem with Washington and lifelong politicians and bureaucrats and everything else, we've said this forever, they know all the dirty things that they do, and they pretend that it is just part of the game. It's okay for us to do this. We've done it for years. It's okay for us to spy on Americans without warrants. We've done it for years. It's okay to abuse the FISA court. We've done it for years. It's okay to protect certain people from prosecution. We've done it for years. And they're just so ingrained. It's why it's called the swamp. It's why they're called deep staters. They're so deep into the bureaucracy and hiding behind it and using these agencies. And it's not just the FBI, but they use these federal agencies to pick and choose winners and losers. Why do you think the Epstein files were not released? Why do you think the shooter in, what was it, Tennessee, the manifesto that she wrote, had to be leaked and not released? Because they pick winners and they pick losers. They hide behind words like in the interest of justice. In the interest of justice, we're not going to follow through with charges. I see that a lot in California when they drop charges. Whose justice? Or whose interest, rather? Because it's not of the American people. It's not for the rule of law. It is for whoever is deemed important, and it goes against whoever is deemed filthy and unwashed. And that's how they look at it. These lifelong bureaucrats have tainted the system for so long that they are pant-wetting at the thought of being exposed. Think about that, what that says about the people that work there. Imagine being afraid right now because a new boss is coming in and the things that you've done may get exposed. Well, they could use it as lawfare, but what, like they did against Trump? Right? Weren't they talking about nobody being above the law? And again, this does tie into the Biden pardon. But this is what we heard
above the law
for the last, 4 years?
No one is above the law. No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one is above the law.
No one is above the law.
Nobody is above the law.
No one 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 is above the law.
And you got to remember, I couldn't have hit pause at a better time. That just made me laugh harder than it should have probably. but you got to remember who Hunter Biden was and why, and the amount of things that the Biden DOJ, the previous Trump DOJ, and then the Obama DOJ did not prosecute for him specifically. That's just one person. Right? We'll talk about Burisma. We'll talk about all of that later on in the show when we get into the actual Biden. But then you look at who they chose to prosecute, who they chose to investigate. Catholics. Right? Looking for extremists, who they deem to be extremists. If you're a white person Actually, you can scratch that now too, because that's changed. It used to be if you were a white guy and you believed in America, then you were considered an extremist. But now it's really, they're trying to wrap their head around it. Well, if you're just believe in America first, then you're an extremist. But just them putting out memos like that and directives, that in itself is a crime. Because what it's doing is it's creating a prejudice amongst the people. Does that mean that every single person on the right's a great person? No. But that doesn't mean that the vast majority of us are somehow terrorists, white nationalist terrorists, like they try to portray us, because they were using it for smokescreens. They were using it for political gain. There was no reasoning behind it. It was a way to keep people quiet. It was a way for you to stop expressing that you love this nation, that you supported this nation, that you were not happy with the direction it was going. Oh, if you're saying all those things, you're a terrorist. It's the biggest threat. Weren't we told that? White nationalist terrorists were the biggest threat to this country. We were told that while millions of illegals were flowing over the border, unvetted, with horrific backgrounds, ties to terrorists, criminal convictions, but we were told it's the white nationalists who are the problem. And that's what the problem is with the deep state, with the FBI, with the other agencies. This is why they are freaking out about somebody like a Kash Patel who's going to come in, and he is qualified. I don't want to hear he's not qualified. None of that BS. We went over that. He's just as qualified as Merrick Garland was to be Attorney General. He can handle the FBI. But that's why they're afraid, is what he is going to expose. You see, one of the things that you realize, and for you younger kids, write this down. When you're younger, you just kind of accept certain things to be so. You just accept things are a certain way. And you're okay with it. And then as you get older and you start really looking into how those things that were once deemed okay affects regular people's lives, and how the government can target you when they want to. They will find the old expression, show me the man and I'll find a crime, right? A very communist way of thinking. That is what was going on. And by and large, these people were answering to nobody. In fact, they were apparently doing the bidding of the highest levels of government, or the people who are actually in charge, aka what we call the deep state. So this is why there is so much backlash against a Kash Patel. Do you remember 12 years ago, 16 years ago? Nobody really cared who ran the FBI, right? Because their reputation hadn't been ruined. You didn't have the Strzok page leaks. You didn't have the Hunter Biden story get suppressed, sit on a laptop during an election. All of this stuff. They didn't come out and push back against, what was it, the 52 former national security experts saying the laptop was Russian disinformation. They were somehow involved with the bugging of Trump Tower through a FISA warrant. They don't want this dirty laundry aired because it is going to ruin a lot of prominent people on the left. And yeah, you know what? Some people on the right may get picked up in it too, and that's fine. Look, I'm all for one and one for all when it comes to justice. If you did something that you shouldn't be doing and use the government against citizens, then yeah, I'm all for it. This is why they hate Kash Patel. When we come back, because I'm up against a break here. By the way, wherever you're watching, please like, subscribe, share it. Help us beat the algorithms. We absolutely need all the help we can get. We're trying to cross that 500 mark on YouTube. If you are in the chat rooms over here on X, I hear you. I see you. I'm trying to get back to you, but it's a one-man show here, and I promise I will. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we will start getting into the Hunter Biden pardon right here on the Edge of Liberty SHR Media Network, simulcast with our good friends over at KLRN Radio.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRN Radio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
Wow, that was weird. Welcome back to the Edge of Liberty. The sound cut out. I wasn't expecting to be on screen right now, but here we are, so we're going to roll with it. We're going to get into... Wow, man, I can't just come in dry like that. I'm so used to having... There we go, my music. That's better. That's the Mondays. I'll tell you what. Get into the part of Hunter Biden. We all saw it coming. I don't think this isn't a shock, but it should be. It's not a shock just because, well, the Biden crime family has been rampant for years. Still remember 10% for the big guy. Those weren't said for nothing. You remember all the meetings where Hunter called Joe, right? Joe might be losing his faculties, but he is not unaware of what his son has done. And it's more than just the gun charges. It's more than just the taxes. There are a lot of people who have done way more time for the same tax violations. It's not just the gun charge. This blanket pardon, and it is a blanket pardon, is absolutely incredible, especially because we were told it wasn't going to happen, right? We were told for the last year that there's absolutely no way that Joe is going to pardon Hunter. And as a matter of fact, look, here's some people telling us right now.
But from a presidential perspective, is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Well, is there,
I just said no. I just answered.
The president would not pardon or commute the sentences for his son, Hunter. I just want to make sure that that is not going to change over the next 6 months. The president's saying it would not.
It's still a no. It's still a no.
It will always be no.
It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no. And I don't have anything else to add. Will he pardon his son? No.
His son, Hunter, is also up for being sentenced next month. Does the president have any intention of pardoning him?
We've been asked that question multiple times. Our answer stands, which is no.
President Biden says that he's not going to pardon his son, Hunter. Is he going to ask Donald Trump to do that?
I don't have anything else to share about that. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole on this. I've been very clear. The president's been very clear.
So the answer was no. Hard no. Is he going to pardon him? No. Is he going to pardon him? No. Is he going to pardon him? No. And why, Joe? Tell us why he won't pardon him. Well, it's simple. No one is above the law. Oh, by the way, this community notes that I love says on December 1st, 2024, President Joe Biden pardoned his son, Hunter, for crimes covering nearly 11 years of offenses against the United States, which he has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. Folks, let me tell you something. As the average person, for you to get a pardon, almost impossible. Not going to lie to you. Almost impossible. You have to, there's so much criteria depending on whether you get a full pardon or whether they commute your sentence. You have to have done so much time. You have to have done this, that. The average person would not get that. But Biden did. After all this time of saying he wouldn't, he did. And what else happens? Well, when you cover a 10-year period, there's a lot of other stuff going on in there. Not only did he pardon Hunter, but he also kind of pardons himself and his brother Jim and other people. You have to remember, Burisma, and all of this goes back to Burisma. This is like the first real thing that we get about Hunter. There was some other stuff. A rental car was found with cocaine and his ID in it. There's some other things that he's done that he's just an outright scumbag. Remember, he didn't even acknowledge his daughter's existence. Joe didn't acknowledge his. There are things where he was a scumbag. But we talk about more major crimes. We talk about other things that he's done, sold access to his father. It goes back to Burisma. Hunter Biden was making millions of dollars on Burisma, a natural gas company out of the Ukraine, even though Hunter Biden knew nothing about natural gas. Nothing. Unless it came out of him, he didn't know squat about natural gas. But he somehow made it onto the board of Burisma. It's so weird. It's almost like his father was vice president. I guess that was true. But that's why. We know why. We know how Hunter Biden ended up there. And everyone knew who Hunter Biden, everyone in D.C. knew who Hunter Biden was and what he was into. Why do you think they sat on the laptop? And then Joe, after he's done being VP, when he took his few years off, gives an interview at some point in front of a whole group of people. And he talks about the quid pro quo that he used with the Ukraine government as vice president, withholding funds if the attorney general of the Ukraine was allowed to keep investigating Burisma. The Ukrainian government fired that AG, dropped the investigation, installed a new AG, and then Biden gave him money. That is like the best example of quid pro quo that I can ever give you. It is the most obvious. I have something you want. I need you to do me a favor, and then I will give it to you. That is quid pro quo. And there are other investigations going into Burisma at the time that got dropped. And then as we flash forward, we find out about the Hunter Biden laptop. 630-page report on that laptop. And I will not show it. I'm looking at it right now because the stuff that they'll shut me down. But in that was 191 sex crimes, 128 drug crimes, and 140 business crimes that will now never be prosecuted. I want to remind you that there was all the text messages between Hunter and Joe. Dad, I'm sitting with this oligarch. Can you answer the phone because I want you to say hi to them? Or remember the Russian mayor's wife that gave Hunter $1 million? It's weird. Because he was selling access. And what does this pardon mean? Well, obviously it means Hunter's off the hook for 10 years. It also means that Hunter, everyone's like, well, he doesn't now. He doesn't have to. He can't plead the fifth because he's not being prosecuted. That doesn't mean that he can be compelled to talk per se. We have so much in the Biden family that stinks. How much money they made off of Joe Biden's name, the access. I haven't even gotten into China and all of the people that were involved with Hunter and China. You remember when Biden was running, everybody said, hey, this guy's compromised because of his son's connections to China. That investigation has never been done. But now, even if it is done, even if they do the investigation, even if they bring charges January 23rd of 2025, you can't. Because the pardon's in place. The skeletons have been buried deeper into the closet. I also think that Joe will pardon his brother, probably a day or two before he leaves office. And somebody mentioned, and I don't know the legality behind this, but that he could pardon himself. I'm not a constitutional expert, and I'm not going to claim to be. But if he does that, there's a reason for that too. Remember, they accuse you of what they are doing themselves. All of this dirty politics, remember the Russian collusion thing, right? We watched that with Adam Schiff and all those lunatics. Well, if you start looking at the files that were in question and the potential charges that were in question by Hunter, he was the linchpin to other politicians, not just Biden. That's the other thing too. It doesn't just stop within the Biden crime family. There were others. Who? We may never know now. We have suspicions, but we won't ever know. And it's funny, they play Hunter as this victim, or actually they're playing Joe as a victim. It's his only son. His other son died of cancer. He lost his first wife in a car wreck, his first daughter in a car wreck. He lost this, he lost that, and he's just trying to protect his son. No, he ain't. I have bad news for you, folks. He ain't just trying to protect his son. There's so many other people that he was trying to protect. Remember, Hunter was a full-blown drug addict. Hunter was never a good person. Hunter was the guy that hooked up with his brother's widow. And he was also, I think, the Fredo Corleone of the family. I don't think Hunter's that bright. I think Hunter was doing everything that they were telling him to do. And then what happens? It's like when Fredo goes to Vegas and he starts thinking he's a big man and he starts doing stuff on his own, and it starts exposing the family. That's what happened with Hunter. I mean, for goodness sakes, it was posted today by Sean McGuire, who says that Hunter still owes $300,000 in back rent to his family, Sean McGuire's family, for rent that he didn't pay for a year when he was in Venice, California. He actually tried, according to Sean McGuire, the owner of the house that he rented in Venice, he actually tried to pay the rent with some of his art made from his own things that come out of you. He is the Fredo Corleone of the Biden family. It is why Joe was compelled to give him a pardon. Right? I'm just saying that Hunter shouldn't go for a boat ride anywhere, ever. Because he is the linchpin. Now, I've seen, and again, unnamed reports, not always the best. I understand that. But one of them came from Jack Posobiec, who I usually vets his sources, and he's pretty good, saying that apparently Hunter was going to release or write a tell-all book if he didn't get his pardon. Now, if that's true, he blackmailed the sitting president of the United States. Does not matter if it's his father or not. Doesn't matter. And he probably got that idea of watching, what's the little English dude who used to be a prince and now he's not anymore? Harry? The tell-all book that he wrote that shocked everybody in England. That's what would have happened here. And there's enough where he could have expanded, he could have insulted, he could have done all of this stuff and lied in that book for things that he needed to. But if you follow the story, he doesn't need to lie about a lot. You remember his father had an office. Joe's name was on the door, had keys to an office that he shared with Hunter and others who were filthy dirty. Tony Bobolinsky told us a lot. A lot of people told us a lot. So it's not just about Hunter Biden. It is about all the information that he could have been compelled to testify about, that he can no longer be compelled to testify about. Yes, the pardon for the taxes is garbage, because if that were you and I, you wouldn't get that pardon. Yes, the pardon for the gun thing is garbage, because if that were you and I, you wouldn't have got a pardon. And remember, they try to make all of this go away, and they try to get a plea deal that was a sweetheart deal to have it signed, sealed, and delivered and case sealed. And then one judge said, wait a minute, none of this reads right. You're giving this deal for those charges? What is wrong with you? And they had to withdraw the deal, and it sent the Dems and the Bidens spinning. It was going to go away. They were so close to setting it up. They were so close. And then the prosecution came. And the convictions came. And he was going to be sentenced, this next week? He had to do the pardon. Because the other thing about Hunter is he has no integrity. He has no spine. He has no backbone. We know that. There's video of him dragging a small female down the hallway while he's naked, and it's him. You can tell by the tattoos. That's who Hunter Biden is. You think if he was faced with 20 years in prison that he wouldn't have agreed to make a deal and start testifying to get out of it early? He's Hunter Biden. Everything goes around Hunter Biden. If you've ever dealt with addicts when they are using, everything's about them and their ability to get their narcotics. Hunter is that person. He still is. Here's a guy who all of a sudden, the art projects, right? We found out it was Democratic donors who were buying these art projects that Hunter was doing that were garbage. I'm not an artist myself, but I know garbage when I see it. They were garbage art pieces. They were selling for $500,000. Come on now. And then they're like, oh, it's a Democratic donor. Of course it is. Of course it is. He has some sugar buddy that was paying for all of his bills. That guy should be looked into. But this is what the Dems do. This is the dirtiness. We're getting back to Kash Patel. This is what they don't want you to know or see. The Democratic Party is not the party of love and joy. It's smoke and mirrors. It is absolutely smoke, mirrors, and control. It is wanton, disgusting, un-American activities that I think when we find out about, we're going to be more shocked. Which is why they're attacking Kash and others right now, because that's the beginning of their defense. They can claim, oh, he was already in Trump's pocket, so it's dirty, so all that stuff that he's bringing out isn't real. Mark my words. Mark it right now. December 2nd, 12:40 p.m. Pacific, 3:40 on the East Coast. This is the beginning of the defense because they know there's going to be some horrific crap that's going to come out when the people start being exposed. Up against break number 2. Please do me a favor, like and subscribe. wherever you're watching from. Even if you hate me, like and subscribe, set the notification so when I come on, you can just come harass me in chat. That's not too hard. If you appreciate what I do, if you don't mind buying me a coffee, buying me cocktails, I am so bad at this part. Also, tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 the East Coast, Jersey Joe and BZ from the SHR Media Network are interviewing an author by the name of Joe Soul. He wrote The Broken Mirror of Memories, Iraq and Other Tales. And it's his story that is going to be amazing. So please check that out tonight. I'm up against the break. When we come back, going to wrap up the week. Some other stuff going on outside of Washington that I want to talk about. And yeah, just usual old Edge of Liberty stuff. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRN Radio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to right here on the SHR Media Network. KLRN Radio. Before I jump off the whole Hunter pardon thing, I do want to play one quick clip. This is the audio only from Karine Jean-Pierre aboard Air Force One responding to questions about the pardon.
You have said repeatedly yourself since the election, the president has said for months, no pardon was coming. I wanted to ask you, could those statements now be seen as lies from the American people? Is there really a credibility issue here given now this announcement?
First of all, one of the things that the president always believes is to be truthful to the American people. That is something
But
that
he didn't.
always truly believes. And if you see the end of his, I assume that you've read his statement, and you look at the end of that statement, and he actually says that in the first line in the last paragraph, and respects the thinking and how the American people will actually see this in his decision making. And I would encourage everyone to read in full the president's statement. I think he lays out his thought process. He lays out how he came to this decision. He came to this decision this weekend. So let's be very clear about that. He says it himself. It's in his voice. He said he came to this decision this weekend. And he said he wrestled with this. And because he believes in the justice system, but he also believes that the war politics infected the process and led to a miscarriage of justice.
The good part is the president admitted that under his DOJ that there can be political prosecutions. So that's pretty much what he admitted at the end there is, hey, I didn't like this. It was dirty because it was against my kid. And as we all know, the the Justice Department can pick and choose its battles and decide. He admitted it, all but admitted it right there, which is even more insane. Everybody read that over and nobody said, maybe we should leave that part out because now it'll come into question with everything else that they're talking about the DOJ picking and choosing. If you're saying it's, first of all, I know I said it was going to be quick, but this just pissed me off. It's your Department of Justice that prosecuted him. It's your DOJ. If you're saying this, you're saying your own DOJ is dirty and can pick and choose political prosecutions and you have no control over it. That's what he admitted at the end. Being honest with the American people. Joe, you haven't been honest with the American people for 3.5 years and everyone knows it. This isn't like some sort of weird new twist where all of a sudden Joe Biden's lying. How many times has the White House been caught in a lie? And I mean even little white lies like accidentally redacting something from a transcript or ignoring something and acting like you don't know what's going on. All of these different things. He lies. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable that he can sit there in the ivory tower and say, being honest with the American people is the most important thing. He defended the lawfare against Trump saying, well, this is not lawfare. There's a crime. There's a crime. Yada, yada, blah, blah. I believe in the justice system. I believe in due process. There should be no two-tier system, except you just admitted there is. At the end of your statement, when you said it was politically motivated, you're saying that's a thing. Going back to my first segment with Kash Patel, that's the thing that needs to end. That is on the list of things that need to end. They always tell you who they are. I've said that 1 billion times. They always tell you who they are. Eventually, politicians get caught in their own bullshit for so long that eventually they have to tell you who they are. I know that's BZ. So he came to the decision this weekend, and I became fat this weekend. Oh, was that Jersey Joe? Sorry, that might have been Joe. Sorry, BZ. Speaking of politicians telling you who they are, in California, they care so much about the voters here. They care so much about the average person here. They let car raids, gas prices left and right. They let crime run rampant for years. Years and years. They absolutely destroyed business in this state through taxes and crime rates. But they're not done yet.
There doesn't have to be a conflict unless that's what Trump wants.
The governor has called a special session that will convene this week to set aside money to battle the Trump administration. Will some of that money also be set aside to protect migrants and undocumented immigrants in California as they seek either legal advice or continued legal financial backing to support their efforts to stay within California and the United States?
Yeah. Again, if the first Trump administration is any indicator, we know that there will continue to be a lot of fear in communities that deserve to know what their rights are and what their rights are not. And so if it's legal assistance, legal advice, legal support, that's just the California way. We embrace our diversity. Our diversity is what's made our communities thrive and our economy thrive. And so we will assist families against the threats of the Trump administration.
Absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. The threats of the Trump administration. What? Enforcing the law? Again, I will say this 1 billion times. I do not believe that every single person who came across that border illegally is a horrible person. That being said, the threshold is not whether or not they're good people or not when they enter illegally. That is the threshold when we're deciding if we're going to give them citizenship. That is a threshold we're deciding if we're going to let them in. If they're here illegally, why are state tax-paying dollars going to defend them? Why? Why is this even a thing? Why is California trying to get in the way? And by the way, I'll say this a million times. I've said it a million times, and I'll scream it from the rooftops. If you are a politician and you are impeding a federal investigation, that includes removal of an illegal immigrant who has a detainer and removal warrant, and or you are impeding a federal investigation and should be prosecuted. Again, how do these illegal immigrants have more protection than the average citizen? How? How are they held to on a higher threshold? I'll tell you right now. Yeah, and I know you can get a bonehead tax attorney or a bonehead defense attorney if you get arrested for free. That's not what this is. That's not what this is. You're not a citizen who's paid taxes and you have the right to representation when the government accuses you of a crime. These are non-citizens who entered illegally that need to be removed. And the state of California is going to use taxpayer money to fight the federal government to keep it from happening. You wonder why the entire country, minus a few cities, thinks California is garbage. This is why. It is unbelievable to think. I live in California, as BZ says, always spell it with a K. I live in California. My tax-paying dollars are going to go to that. Also, I'm going to be paying 50 cents more a gallon because the bureaucratic, unelected car board makes rules. The Air Resources Board makes rules that nobody can oppose. Nobody can stop. They're unelected, appointed bureaucrats that add taxes to the average person without ever being elected. And now they want to just use that tax money for illegals. This is what happens when Democrats run everything. California Democrats run everything. If you don't know that, California Democrats run everything. And they do this crap all the time. They do not care. They do not. They just look at, I put this on X and I'll say it over and over again. They look at taxpayers in the state like mindless drones that they just drain money and lifeblood from. And they give it away to those who do not deserve it. When we talk about the homeless, the billions that were spent on homeless, nothing was done. You look at the train to nowhere, nothing was done. Billions of taxpayer dollars lining the pockets of their friends who run the nonprofits that run the homeless, the nonprofits for homeless, who ran the train to nowhere. And they passed laws like, we're going to protect teachers if they don't tell parents that their 13-year-old is transitioning. And then they clap like seals for that, removing parents from a major element of their portion of their children's life. They clap like barking seals over right over here. I'm just a couple miles away. The state capitol. It is an atrocity. It is an atrocity for them to use my tax-paying dollars for this. I already pay for illegals. The amount of stuff that they get in this state for free is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I'll tell you right now, when it comes to somebody like me, when I was on short-term disability, I got hurt. I paid into the system. So if I get hurt outside of work, I have some protection. That is supposed to be guaranteed for me. I had to fight for it hand and there are times that I wouldn't get paid for weeks at a time. Oh, there was like a little oopsie in the system. They're not going to reach out to you and ask you if that was just a simple mistake. You just don't get paid. And then you don't know until you don't get paid. And I had to go into the office and spend hours on the phone all because something was an S that shouldn't have been an S, or I selected a box that was a mistake. And instead of picking up the phone when they reviewed it and called me and said, hey, did you mean to do this? No. Oh, okay, cool. We'll fix it. Sorry. Click. Hours. That's California. A middle-class, hardworking person bears the brunt of everything in this state. Everything. Everybody else gets it for free. You look at all the money that Newsom's dumping into Hollywood, because Hollywood's just a hot mess. Nobody wants to talk about that, but they are. But the average person, you're just port. By the way, gonna get out of California. I only got about 3 minutes to go. If you haven't been following the news, Syria is blowing up again. We know there was the civil war that was going on there for years. It got quiet over the weekend. The rebels against the Assad regime launched a major offensive. They took Aleppo. They took a couple other cities. Now Iran is sending troops. Russia is apparently bombing the rebels. The Russian Air Force and Syrian airstrikes, but they hit a university, they hit national hospitals, they hit a bunch of other things. So keep an eye on what's going on in Syria. Mainstream media is not covering Syria whatsoever. They are not covering it. So you do some homework and go find it, because there's plenty of videos and information online. Donald Trump put on Truth Social talking about, we found out that the American Israeli being held, that we thought was being held hostage, was actually died on October 7th. Trump put out this post today, right? Yeah, today. Everybody's talking about the hostages who are being held so violently, inhumanely, and against the will of the entire world in the Middle East, but it's all talk and no action. Please let this truth serve to represent that if the hostages are not released prior to January 20th, 2025, that when I proudly assume the office of the President of the United States of America, they will be held to pay in the Middle East for all of those in charge who perpetrated these atrocities against humanity. Those responsible will be hit harder than anybody has been hit in the long and storied history of the United States of America. Release the hostages now. Remember, going back to how serious Trump is about this stuff, remember in Syria, when Trump unloaded a whole bunch of Tomahawks onto the Syrian base. He doesn't stay, but he sends the message. And look, this isn't starting a war. There's already a war over there. They took American hostages. This government really did nothing but try to shoestring Israel. I'm telling you, he's getting stuff done, and he's already sending messages. Lastly, while I'm here, the Department of Government Efficiency has set an expiration date for themselves. They set one for July 4th, 2026. That's when they want to be done going through, reviewing, and doing all of their cuts. And as Elon Musk put on X, the final step of Doge is to delete itself. That's pretty incredible if you think about it. When was the last time you've seen any government project come up with its own expiration date? And they're already putting one on there. And I hope so much that the Doge does the job we all want it to do. Folks, that's it for me here on the Edge of Liberty on the SHR Media Network with our friends over at KLRN. Don't forget to check out the interview tonight with Jersey Joe, BZ, with Mr. Joe Soul, the author of The Broken Mirror of Memory, Iraq and Other Tales. That starts at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. on the East Coast. I will be back Friday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 on the East Coast, right here on the SHR Media Network. Please like and subscribe to everything, even if you hate it. Like I said before, we greatly appreciate it. It helps us get through the algorithm. I hope you have a great week. Love to see the Christmas decorations going up. Get your Christmas shopping done early if you can. Enjoy yourself, and I'll talk to you Friday. Take care.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network. Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and, oh, God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.